This is Judge Joe Brown, and you're watching We All Be News TV, the
News-free Dixie.
news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
We All Be is honored to have once again, the one and only brother Gavin Richard with some 411 we need to know so we can grow. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine, my brother. I'm doing great. I hope you and your family are doing well. I hope you're staying cool, especially with this heat.
I I know you get. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's hot in Louisiana. I swear I saw a pimp slapping his girls with Gatorade.
Okay,
you got the lights up, bitches.
You got the Louisiana hot sauce 411 for us though today though, sir. There's a lot of things going on in the news cycle, or has been going on all this year. But we want to touch upon some of that stuff as well. I want to ask you, man, because I mean we're approaching football season and whatnot, and this issue with ColIN Kaepernick not being able to play or get signed by a team. And people talking about boycotting the NFL. They also got the CTE stuff going on with the brain concussions and stuff like that. What are your thoughts about what's going on right now?
Well, to address the CTE issue first, if I could, you know, that they had that movie Concussion, which Will Smith was in, that he played the doctor who discovered that. You know, I've heard from a doctor, and I'm going to address him a little bit later because I think we may be talking about the OJ Simpson case. He's involved with that. But I was listening to him on a radio program where he said, if you basically have a 245-pound man running up against another 245-pound man or more, and they do this, let's say, the average NFL player, I think, plays in the league on average, maybe is lucky about, 3 or 4 years?
Right, something like that.
Maybe less than that.
Less than 5,
I think NBA is like that as well. Well, if you keep doing that constantly, eventually, and you're hitting yourself in the head all that time, that causes trauma. And the human brain is not designed for that level of trauma. Now, me being a man, I love sports. We love brutality. It goes back to the Roman Colosseum. You know, people would go in there and they would see the gladiators fight the monsters, and sometimes even the Christian martyrs would be put to death. You know, people would gather, and Caesar or whoever the emperor was would give the thumbs up, you know, or put them to death. It's part of it's in our nature to be violent. You know, it's not right. But you know, do I think the NFL should be banned? Not necessarily, because I think, in all fairness, if you ban the NFL, then what are we going to do about boxing or UFC fighting? Because I'm pretty sure those men, you know, have developed diseases as a result of the hits that they've taken and the punches they've taken. Look at, you remember a boxer in the 90s named Meldrick Taylor?
Oh, no, sir. Tell us about him.
Well, he was a lightweight champion of the world at one time, and, well, how he came... He was very good. He was trained under Lou Duva. Lou Duva was the boxing manager the boxing trainer for Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker.
I know him, yeah.
Yeah, Evander Holyfield and a bunch of fighters. Well, Meldrick was fighting, and I know you may have heard this name, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr.
Of course.
Yeah, not Junior. Junior sucks, but I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, Junior, yes, they fought in this fight for back in 1990 or 1991, and Meldrick Taylor was beating him, and eventually Julio Cesar Chavez kept, you know, fighting and caught up to him and knocked him down. When he got back up in the 12th round with only 1 second left, referee Richard Steele stopped the fight, and he lost the title. But other than that, he would have beaten Julio Cesar Chavez because he beaten him the whole fight. Well, to get to my point with the brain and concussion issues, they looked at his speech pattern from 1990 to, I think the interview was 2003 or 2002, and Meldrick Taylor, he sounded like Mushmouth from Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. Not trying to make fun of anybody, that has that, but they could tell by his speech pattern. He was punched, they call it pugilist disease or pugilist syndrome. Yeah, but he was punch drunk at that time. So, I mean, are we going to investigate and put that out of business? We'd have to question everything. We can't just look at one sport and not look at all the others. But when it comes to Kaepernick, it's clear he's being blackballed. They have, for him to not, they have him unsigned, and for him not to be signed even as a backup. And I see white quarterbacks like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who on the New York Jets, who have the sorriest quarterback tandem in the league right now, and they couldn't sign Kaepernick. Same thing with look at my hometown here of with New Orleans with the Saints. Drew Brees. Drew Brees was outspoken against Kaepernick when he took the knee. All he did was take a knee. He's never been arrested or convicted of a crime. And you have criminals that are on these NFL teams, people that have been accused of domestic violence, people that have been accused of homicides. Look at Ray Lewis.
Very outspoken against Kaepernick, though.
I'm sorry?
He's very outspoken against Kaepernick, or even Mike Vick, who is a felon.
Yeah, well, Vick is the last, shouldn't even be talking.
I mean, he had a RICO. Basically, he had a RICO. That was a RICO he had escaped. He should be in jail still.
Right. He had a federal, well, what it was my understanding, he wasn't doing the dog fighting, but
it's still like an organized crime thing, though, right? Because it's like it's John Gotti or somebody.
From it.
Yeah, so it's still a RICO thing. He should be in jail based on that.
But they didn't give him the full blunt. They just needed a face on it because he was a celebrity at that time. And he really, to be quite honest, there are people that have killed. We already know there are people that kill human beings that don't do any jail time.
This is true.
And I think with him, he got, with him, and I remember this distinctly when he was coming back in the league. People were still protesting him. Some were saying, he was a horrible human being. I remember that white conservative talk show host Tucker Carlson saying he should have gotten a death penalty for that. White folks love their dogs. It was really ridiculous. But do
you remember Leonard Little? He used to play for St. Louis Rams, a great Hall of Fame level talent player.
Yeah.
Who was a drunk driver and who killed a woman. He was drunk driving. They let him back in the league, or they kept him in the league for years after that.
Dante Stallworth as well.
Yeah.
Dante Stallworth was drafted by the Saints back in 2002 from Tennessee State University. I remember him very well. And I think he ended up years later after he left for the Saints, he played for the Patriots. But he had, and a couple other teams, but yeah, he had a DUI where he killed a woman. And he was allowed to come back. And let's not forget Ben Roethlisberger.
Oh, yeah, twice. I'm glad they didn't win another Super Bowl.
3.
Oh.
He had 3 counts.
Okay, every time they won Super Bowl, he raped somebody, I think. Yeah. I ain't laughing at the rape. But it's like every time he did that.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly, right. But he's still playing. They extended his contract, right? He's a Hall of Fame quarterback, guaranteed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he had 3 counts of sexual assault he was never convicted or arrested on it, but he was investigated for that. And the only thing he got was suspended for 6 games. But to get with Kaepernick, this is just about, it's basically about putting nigga in his place.
I mean, I read, go ahead, I'm sorry.
You're not gonna do this against our, troops, which it has nothing to do with the troops, because when people even rise for the national anthem, half of them are not even paying attention.
Right. But you know what's...
Not even paying attention. Go ahead, brother.
No, but you know what's crazy, though? This is crazy. ColIN Kaepernick, you never heard of him getting in trouble outside the playing field. He is not a criminal. He's a upstanding citizen. He's got a lot of sense. He's really a great role model for people who want to be intelligent and confident and also have a moral compass. But my thing is Jackie Robinson. People think he's an American icon. He never stood up for the national anthem. For obvious, he had his reasons for not standing up for the national anthem. As a black man, as a person who stood his ground in the military, when he was an officer down in Fort Hood, Texas, he had almost a Mexican standoff. I mean, the man pulled out his gun and said, "If I gotta go, some of y'all gonna go with me." They never talk about that, but they always talk about Rosa Parks, which is interesting. But he never stood up for the national anthem, and he gave his reason in his autobiography why he never stood up. But yeah, he's an American hero. You got a country that demonized Malcolm X, but yeah, he's on a stamp. He's an American hero now, like Patrick Henry, which is crazy. Yeah. So ColIN Kaepernick is being crucified, which is fascinating to me. And the people that's coming after him are people with questionable moral backgrounds. They're using other slaves to come out the slaves like Spartacus or something. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the thing is that the guy has, like we said, he has no criminal background. But one of the things you got to look at too, and I saw this. I watch Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and.
I like Shannon, man. I got more respect for him every day.
I respect. I think Undisputed is better than First Take.
By far, man. And Skip is better. I think he's better around Shannon than he was around Stephen A.
Yeah, well, Stephen A. was cooning too much. You know, especially after he made those comments about Ray Rice, he had to straighten up because he got suspended for that. And if you go back and look at that video, what he said was not incorrect. There are women who do start domestic violence. Women, I think the latest FBI statistics stated that in most instances, about 55% or more cases, those, I don't want to give the wrong number because I don't have that in front of me, but I did remember reading it. They mostly started by females, not men. Now, that's not to say what they do is right, but it gives you some hindsight of what's going on. And, you know, some of these women, they're not all angels. I mean, let's just be real. There are women I know who have attacked men with knives and baseball bats before. But, you know, they'll cry victim. I saw a video where a woman came on a beach and was attacking a man who was playing with his kite, playing with some type of drone. And when the cops came, she acted like he was the one victimizing her. Well, he had the whole thing recorded. This is a white guy, by the way. Mm-hmm. He had the whole thing recorded, and if he didn't have it recorded, they would have looked at him.
Exactly.
They would have looked at him. But, yeah, with Kaepernick, Undisputed, they talked about it, Kaepernick, a lot. Like I said, I have more respect for Shannon Sharp than I do Stephen A. Smith. And one of the things that they mentioned yesterday on the show was that the police unions, the NFL union is very weak. They don't really stand up for their players like talking about it. They're not organized properly. You know, that's why this Commissioner Goodell has all of this unbridled power. He can do basically whatever he wanted to do. You know, the NFL owners except one, gave him all of this discretion. So it's these owners that are the problem that, you know, will keep Kaepernick from being signed. But boycotting the NFL necessarily won't work. What would have to happen is you would have to hit the sponsors at the NFL that sponsor the NFL, because the NFL is a nonprofit organization. A lot of people don't know that. They pay no taxes, and they make billions of dollars. It is a billion-dollar industry. So the only thing, what you got to hit them in their pockets if you want to send a message. You know, the white man only understands one thing. A mentor told me this a long time ago. He understands money and force. That's it. All the stuff we march for about justice and peace, when they saw Dr. King marching on Washington Mall, you know, they were laughing. They were laughing at it. I mean, they didn't care about that. They knew eventually integration was going to have to happen. Why? Because if you can integrate the schools, if you integrate the malls, the movie theaters, and so forth, it brings money to us. Whereas opposed when we had black theaters, we had black post office, we had black doctors, we moved away from that and went to them. That's why when you look at college football, take that for instance, since we're on football now, they don't broadcast, if you notice, the black college football games like they used to back in the 90s and 80s. Have you noticed that?
Wow, I wasn't really paying attention. That's interesting.
Right. They don't broadcast them like talking about it. They'll put it, maybe on like a ESPNU, but they used to be on. I remember when BET used to broadcast it. They don't do that anymore. Even though BET is owned by whites, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, we don't have anything like that anymore. Quality programming, that's gone. Let me ask you this question. I know you're doing an interview, but you grew up mostly in what year? 80s or 90s?
80s and 90s, yeah.
Okay, same here. All right. Do you remember when they actually had television shows that actually made sense?
Yeah, I would say yeah. I can, yeah.
We had, even the black comedy show, like even the white shows. Let's take color out of it for just the instance. For this point, they all had a moral behind the story. I don't care if you were watching Family Ties or if you're watching the Cosby Show.
Yeah, okay to mine, the Cosby Show, different world. It made sense.
A different world, right? And what they did with the Cosby Show and A Different World, they highlighted the importance of black colleges and universities.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at it, Bill Cosby always wore a Spelman shirt. He always wore a Dillard shirt, always wore a Xavier shirt, Grambling, Morris Brown. Even on A Different World, you saw even though they were fictional, the black fraternities. And in later shows, like even on Martin and Living Single, I would see Martin wearing a Grambling University sweater. I would see Kim Fields wearing a Spelman sweater, or Queen Latifah wearing Clark Atlanta. That's something that we don't see anymore. And you got to question that, and that's because it's by design that they are dumbing down this nation, and especially our people. Because what's the best show we can find now that we can look at? What, Black Ink Crew Chicago?
Well, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm listening.
Yeah, well, I'm just ranting about it because I'm just the TV shows that we have now it's just awful. That's why if you notice, there's a nostalgia for like the 80s and 90s now that people are saying, because they realize, before the internet, we actually had fun. Things made sense. Things were more, there was quality. This is not here no more. So.
Yeah, I want to actually take, you saying that, I was thinking about some shows. I think a lot of the shows now, they are too much involved in pushing a certain different agenda from what you stated with the late 80s, 90s shows, which is, I would call the gay agenda. I think it was so big because every show you look at now got something dealing with homosexuality and with same-sex relationships.
Yeah,
and that's very much pushed.
Design.
Yeah,
that's by design. I want to tell you this. Back in the 70s, if I'm correct, the very first show that actually had an open gay character was Billy Crystal on the show Soap.
Okay.
I remember listening to this attorney, and his name escapes me right now, but there was some type of special television show on ABC during the 70s, or it was either the late 70s, early 80s. I can't be sure, but I distinctly remember him talking about this. And what happened on that show, there was I believe, a rape scene that involved a homosexual man or homosexual men or something like that doing this to a heterosexual man. And it portrayed them, what they found, the gay community, in a negative light. And from that point on, I think on most of these networks, they are required to have, whenever they do have a gay character, they're required to have an advisor on these shows and on these networks. They have to be portrayed in a positive light. And you see that in the TV shows. Look at Modern Family. I don't even watch it because I don't really, I didn't think it was all that funny. But, you look at, Modern Family. You look at a couple other shows like Will and Grace. There was Glee. There's Grey's Anatomy. There's Scandal. There's there's How to Get Away with Murder, which I stopped watching and all. Just because it was just too much. And in fact, Billy Crystal commented on how they're pushing the gay agenda too much, and they made him apologize for saying that. He said a lot of stuff. Yeah, he said a lot of stuff that they're showing just goes too far. He wasn't saying anything vulgar against them. He didn't make any slurs. He wasn't saying he hated gay people or anything like that. But the slightest thing, any type of criticism that you have towards them, they make you apologize, or else you're gonna lose your job. And that's just the bottom line. They control. There are three groups in Hollywood that are running everything, and they're intertwined with each other. It's the Jewish community, the feminist movement, which is white women, and it's the LGBTQ. I don't know. They got more letters, abbreviations too. They got that I didn't even know of, because there's questioning. I heard of something yesterday called cisgender, which I have no idea what the hell that means. Have you heard of that? Cisgender?
Cisgender, I heard of what's gender fluidity. I never heard of that. What is that?
I guess that's what that is. But that's crazy and nonsense. But yeah, more craziness. But yeah, it's all part of an agenda. President Obama, he really pushed it. During his presidency, he spoke up more for gay rights than he did black rights. And you see now that Trump is coming in, and they're basically trying to, erase his legacy. Even parts of that are being dismissed, which I'm surprised he's even doing, because Trump actually is, if you look at his history, he actually has had, with him and his family, they've had a history of endorsing, LGBT issues. Yeah. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but now he's doing, because he has the Republican Party vote, he's pushing against the transgenderism in the military. He had Mad Dog Maddox, I think, as his military advisor. So yeah, he's pushing to that ultra conservative base. But I think he's also an independent. He was a Democrat, I think, at one point. But yeah, I know I'm just rambling right now.
No. Also, he's related to Hillary Clinton too. People
he's related to Hillary.
Yeah, they cousins. He was, he went to her daughter's wedding, whatever. And people want to downplay these bloodline relationships. The people that control the world, they have connected bloodlines. You look at all the presidents; they all related. They say Barack Obama related to a whole bunch of them, right?
Yeah, Barack Obama's related to Brad Pitt.
Right, Brad Pitt.
To Dick Cheney. Their cousins removed. I don't know.
George Bush, Lyndon B. Johnson, Harry Truman, Franklin Pierce. All of them. Jesse James, John D. Rockefeller are cousins, okay? So, all these people are related.
All but one are related to the King of England.
Yeah, they all go back to England, a lot of it. Yeah. So, the thing about it, you look at these bloodlines, you look at these people, they're not going to let you be president unless you are a part of their club some type of way.
Right, and that's the thing I try to tell people, because a lot of people think Obama was on our side. He was not. He was not. He knows things that you and I don't have access to.
Right.
You don't think he knew? Honestly, I tell people this. You don't think he's looked at those government files and know who really killed John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King?
Well, we know that too, though. Here's the thing about us. We know that too, but we don't know that we know it, because they put it out there already. Like, you look at Dr. King's case, for example. We had a civil court case down in Memphis back in 1999 that confirmed that the government was complicit in the killing of Dr. King. If you look at the transcripts of that court thing, because the King family brought that up, so it's part of public record. Right. You can look this stuff over. People don't want to know. That's the difference. You got the information out there to know about what happened to Kennedy, as well as MLK, and even Malcolm X. Your government that you pay taxes to. Right, but it's the government. It's always an inside job. 9/11. Jet fuel cannot do that to buildings. The World Trade Center was designed to withstand airplane crashes.
Yeah.
And all types of acts of God. So you telling me that the jet fuel, that you put it in jets that people ride around in on a daily basis was able to do that?
Well, I would go further than that. If you look at World Trade Center 7, Tower
Right.
7,
Tower 7.
that was not even hit by an airplane. So why did that fall?
Because it was explosion in the basement. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's not even mentioned in the 9/11 Commission report.
9/11 Commission report, Warren report.
They never admitted it.
The Warren Commission report, any commission report issued by the government is not trustworthy. Whether it be the Warren Commission on the Kennedy assassination, whether it be in the 9/11 report, commission report, because you got witnesses on tape saying that they heard explosions from the basement. Even the first World Trade Center bomb in '93, the FBI was heavily involved in that.
Yeah. I've heard the same thing with Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma.
Right. The government was involved in that. The FBI, CIA, they do operate. You got to look up things called Operation Northwoods, where they basically killed Kennedy. One of the reasons why they killed Kennedy, because he did not want to do false flags operations on U.S. soil.
Well, the main reason, that was part of it, but the main reason was the fact that he was in the process, two reasons. He was in the process of removing the troops out of Vietnam, and the other reason is that he was also going to get rid of the Federal Reserve Unit. He signed an executive order, I believe it's 11100, and he was going to back the United States dollar behind silver. See, we forget something. The Federal Reserve Bank is a private institution. It's not government owned.
Right.
It's privately owned, and every time we're borrowing money, we're charged interest by this bank. Just like if you have a mortgage, when you get a mortgage loan from a bank, and they charge you interest to make payments each month. Well, if we're in debt, like what we are here in the United States, I believe it's $19 trillion. I'm not sure. That's because we're borrowing so much, but we're not producing anything either to cut the debt down. And I mean, I don't even know if you can emphatically cut something like that down, because I can't even fathom $19 trillion. Can you?
They don't want you to cut you down. They don't want to cut it down. That's how they kept the United States united. We are united in debt.
Right.
The so-called founding fathers fought to get rid of that debt. They didn't want to be a part of banks. They knew the bankers were the evil ones, the banksters, and they fought against them. But the banksters got in power because of Woodrow Wilson signing the Federal Reserve into existence, because he made a deal with those banksters, those private banksters, to get elected as president. Yeah, and he regretted it. He regretted it. That was one of his biggest regrets. The Federal Reserve.
It was interesting too. In 1913, two other organizations were found that year. IRS and I believe the Anti-Defamation League.
And the IRS is an interesting thing, because you got former IRS agents saying they don't pay taxes. The IRS, because it's unconstitutional.
Yeah,
the IRS is unconstitutional. But when people don't know these things, like, it's a movie I just seen recently. I'm behind like everybody else. You ever see this movie called The Zeitgeist?
No, I haven't.
You got to see it, man. It came out 10 years ago. People think it's so controversial because it talks about the origins of Christianity, but really happened on 9/11, and it talks about the IRS and how the money is run in the world. And really, the Federal Reserve was created to create debt. You got to borrow money from the Federal Reserve. You borrow that money in debt already. You know what I'm saying? We a bunch of debt slaves. This is a country of debt slaves. You cannot escape the system unless you overthrow the system, unless you create an alternative system. But if you are a participant in this system, you are more than likely a slave. You're a debt slave. So it's meant for you to be staying in debt so they can control you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true, because when you look at just the financial system, the way it's set up, you know, people buy things on credit, even me.
Of course, we all do it. I do it.
We all do it because we need it. We need the item. And eventually you got to pay it back. And if you fail to pay it back, they charge you late fees and they charge you interest. So
they don't want you to pay it back.
Scrape up more and more money. And it's very hard. I can tell you, as a young attorney, you know, I'm working on my own. It's a hustle.
Right.
I mean, that's just the truth. When you're working on your own, I mean, when you work in general on your own, You got to hustle. But it's even worse because you're saturated here in Baton Rouge with lawyers. Baton Rouge is a very small community. It's growing, but it's a small community and it's saturated with attorneys. And so, unless you're known, it's going to take you a little more time than like a seasoned attorney to get a client to walk through your door. And, that applies when you're an entrepreneur with anything. That applies as well, because you got to just get your name out there. And, you're basically hustling. You're trying to pay off the man. You got your credit card payments that are due. That's not to mention also you got to keep your lights on. So you got electricity, you got gas, you got food, you got to eat. There's a whole bunch of stuff. It's just money in, money out. You make money to spend money, like my mom used to say. It just costs. Yeah, it costs. And the credit card system, the credit system here is a joke.
It is. It's meant to control people. And also, it's funny you said that. I was thinking about what Judge Joe Brown told me the other day, and I'm going to put that out there to the public soon. But he said basically he used to avoid the creditors after law school. It took him years to pay back his law school debt, But when he used to talk to him on the phone, he would say, "Look, I'm just living out the interest of the 40 acres and the mule that you owe me, that you owe my ancestors. So really, I'm living out the interest of the reparations that was owed. So leave me alone." So eventually he paid it off. But what's the interest? I'm going to tell you what's the interest. The reason why Kaepernick having the problems he having, and the reason why a lot of us are having the problems we having. I had a conversation some years ago with Fred Hampton's friend and lawyer. There's a guy named Jeffrey Haas. He's a Jewish American from Atlanta, but he went to the University of Chicago Law School, and that's where he met Fred Hampton and started the People's Law Office. Because of Fred Hampton, he said, "Brother Ron, back then you could be able to do the social justice work because you didn't have debt coming out of school. You could be able to experiment and do things for the community, be an advocate because you didn't have to deal with school debt. But now that's impossible coming out today. You got to deal with so much debt. You can't really do things you want to do or experiment with try to do social justice advocacy." And then you look at ColIN Kaepernick. If he was out during Ali's time, Ali had the backing of some of the top black athletes in the country. But the thing about it is, these black athletes got more to lose financially now than they did back then, because even back then, even you was like a great football player or basketball player, you still had to get a job in the off season to support yourself and your family. Right. You wasn't making millions of dollars back there.
You weren't making millions of dollars during that time. They weren't. Athletes basically worked two jobs.
Right.
I remember I saw Johnny Unitas, the great quarterback for the Colts, and I think he was working either in the steel mills in Baltimore. He was from Philadelphia, or not Philadelphia. I'm sorry, he's from Pennsylvania area, I believe. He's deceased now, but yeah, I think he was working in the steel mills and so forth while he was playing football. That's just how it was at one point. They did that part-time, and eventually it took off to what it is now. It's a multi-million-dollar industry. But what they do is they have celebrities. Well, not celebrities, I'm sorry. They have sponsors that want to push their items and merchandise. So they'll use these athletes now to push that for them. Look at LeBron James. You look at who else? If you look at even Richard Sherman, a whole bunch of them, they do advertisements and commercials, and they make extra money like that. At one time, Manny Pacquiao, he was doing commercials with Nike, and I think he made some comments about gay people. They took that away from him. Yeah. So so when these advertisers want to push and want their items to sell, they're going to go to the athlete, and the athletes realize if I say something controversial, I know that I can lose money from this. So that's why a lot of them are not saying and speaking out, in favor of Kaepernick, though some have, but they're not. We don't have athletes like we did back in the 60s and 70s. You had, when Ali spoke, he didn't care about money, but the community helped him. Same thing with Jim Brown and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. When he spoke out, we knew who the enemy was, and we all stuck together. That happened in New Orleans back in 1965 when they had the AFL championship, AFL, NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like a Pro Bowl. When the athletes from the AFL were trying to get into the hotels, or even with a cab, even to hail a cab, they would have guns pulled on them because they were black and they couldn't spend, their money and time in the French Quarter. They couldn't go into certain hotels, and they all stood up and demanded that the NFL and the AFL move this game to Houston, or because we're not going to play here if we're not. Why would I play somewhere where I'm not welcome?
Exactly.
And the NFL responded and they moved. So you don't have that today though because niggas are scared.
But you say you go back to you go back to that point. I read a recent article about Kaepernick where basically Richard Sherman, who plays for the Seattle Seahawks, who was very outspoken on certain issues, he said they're just trying to keep a nigga in his place. So in so many words, but Colin Kaepernick had a chance to be signed by the Seahawks. Would probably been a great fit for him, but they turned him down. But if the players stood up for him at the Seahawks organization, it might have been a different story. Instead of talking about it to a reporter, why not stood up to him? Why not stand up for him against the ownership to say, look, this guy is good for our locker room. He's a real leader. He's very inspirational. He's very talented. He's not even 30 years old yet. He's not even in his prime.
They're not going to give up. They're not going to speak up for him right when it needs to be because they're not going to give up. They don't want to lose that check either. They got kids to support. They're not going to give that up. Look, the owners are the ones that, even though most owners don't run the team, it's usually the general managers that do everything. Owners are not going to really are the ones obviously that make the final decision because they sign a check. So these players, especially if some of them are coming up on contract years, like I think Richard Sherman was coming up on his, they're not going to speak and say things right when it counts or when it needs to be. And those players, I don't know if he said anything in private. I think they've said they wanted him there, but, he didn't play. He's not playing for them. So he would have been a good fit there. Hell, he would have been a good fit in New York.
The Jets or even the Dolphins. Come on, Jay Cutler over Kaepernick. Come on, man.
Yeah, the Dolphins, but they signed Jay Cutler's ass, who, from my understanding, he didn't. If you saw that press conference, he didn't even look like he was happy about coming back.
But he's protected by, like somebody says, a brotherhood. They protect certain ones. I mean, I'm surprised a lot more quarterbacks didn't speak out for Kaepernick.
That coach. The coach for the Miami Dolphins was the offensive coordinator for the Chicago Bears when Cutler was there.
Right, but he looked out for his boy, though. He looked out for him.
Right, right.
Who's looking out for Kaepernick, man? That's what I'm saying. Nobody's looking out for him.
Nobody.
And not even the black people or black folks. So, I mean, I'm like this. I look at back in the 60s, right? I look at Ali. Ali was willing to sacrifice 4 years of his prime to make a point. Dr. King and Malcolm X and Medgar Evers were family men who were killed. They had families to feed. They had wives. And they were killing these folks making all these damn excuses now why they can't stand up and be a man. Why you can't stand up for another man who's standing up for us. They're making all these damn excuses about family and all this stuff. You had people 50 years ago, they put their whole livelihood, they put their families, they put everything on the line for what they believe in. Yeah. Everything. And if you ain't willing to put everything on the line, you ain't living.
Right, but all of that is gone now because we
bunch of cowards.
Going back to niggas are scared. But going back to even with the black college football I was telling you about.
Mm-hmm.
You had black college football games broadcast on primetime television. We had quality family programming. The times have changed. People it's a money-making industry. And like any well-oiled machine, a machine has no feelings. And so that's what you're seeing with the NFL. That's what you see with the NBA. It's not gonna. They're not gonna change anything unless you stop the money, unless you stop the oil. That's the only way a car shuts down. Is when there's no oil, the car just stops, right?
Yeah, but people willing to give up their bread and circuses. Like Caesar said, give them bread and circuses. You can do whatever you want to.
Yeah.
People willing to give up their bread and circuses. I don't think people in America are willing to give that up, along with their drugs. They're not willing to give that up.
They're not willing to give that up, and you see that with Kaepernick. And the guy, from my understanding, he is giving his money away, even to the inner city for kids who don't have it. I saw him actually give his whole Tennessee collection to a bunch of needy kids in the ghettos in San Francisco and in the West Bay.
And they're getting rid of poor black folks in San Francisco and the Bay Area. They're getting rid of these people. People have been living there for decades.
Yeah,
black folks can't afford to live there no more.
Oh yeah, it's happening everywhere. Even in New Orleans, I can show you places in New Orleans where they got bicycle lanes now. Mm-hmm. Something they ain't never had since I was a kid.
Right, I hear you.
On St. Claude, and there's an area called St. Claude Avenue. That's a street that runs all the way to the Lower Ninth Ward from the Bywater area. They got bicycle lanes there, man. I ain't never seen that. That's because these white folks are coming in there. They come in there, and when they come in there, the city is able to give them everything they want. They give them, they give them luxury. But if you got a majority black area, I've told you this before, we've talked about this, like New Orleans East. They don't put any quality out there. They don't have any. There's no economic development. Hell, not even in New Orleans, even in Baton Rouge, where I live in. There's an area called North Baton Rouge. I think I've told you about this. There used to be the biggest mall in the state at one time was Coquina Mall. Now all they got is Virginia. They got Virginia College out there. The stores have closed down. They have a few little outlet stores out there, but it's fallen to shit. Nobody shops out there. Everybody's got to come to the South Baton Rouge area to go to the Mall of Louisiana. And, of course, that's mostly in a predominantly white area.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's all by design, man, why this shit is happening. You look everywhere, like it's always concentrated. Inner city is always concentrated with poverty and crime and so forth. It's by design because all the white folks moved out to the suburbs and they took the jobs and they took the businesses with them. Even in New Orleans East. New Orleans East really was a suburb at one time. It still is. It's not in the inner city of New Orleans because people will say, for instance, I'll give you an example. People may say they're from Atlanta, but they may live in Mableton, Georgia, which is outside Atlanta, or Sandy Springs, Georgia. Those are cities that, outside Atlanta. They don't necessarily live in the heart of Atlanta. But New Orleans East was a suburb of New Orleans, where outside the city, the CBD area, and they had grocery stores, malls, movie theaters. Speaking of the 80s, I remember when they had a movie theater right off Morrison Road that I used to go to. I remember being little and my dad taking me and my brother to see Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Right.
And I was 3. Yeah. Yeah, man. We're bringing back some memories, Brother Ron.
Oh, yeah, it's something we need to talk about in later shows. But I want to get back to the NFL.
Nintendo, yeah.
Yeah, with the CTE thing and with the Kaepernick thing. And with the CTE thing in particular, this could actually probably bankrupt the NFL. I know some people believe in 30 years that the NFL will be no more. That families will stop letting their children play football because of the CTE situation. What's your take on the demise of the NFL or the future of the NFL, Russ?
I don't see it. Like I said, it goes back to my original statement. If you go after the NFL, what are we going to do with boxing?
Well, boxing is really on decline, to be honest with you. There's really MMA and UFC starting to be more interested. They're bringing in more people than boxing right now.
That's true, but when you say a demise of a sport, boxing has been around since even ancient Egyptian times. There were boxers. It's not going to go anywhere. Keep in mind, boxing was selling out stadiums before they even had pay-per-view, before they had radio. Television. Look at Jack Johnson.
Right. That's true.
So I don't see that. I don't see that happening because it's just too much. There's too much money in it. Now, I think that there's probably going to be, in a few years, I think the interest in it has certainly changed, and I think that might be a factor. I think people need to get real when they say they want women to be in the NFL. That would be a bad idea.
You talking about domestic violence? Shit.
That's really domestic violence. Yeah,
Right.
they showed a video. ESPN.
They need to stop
showed a
that.
video. Yeah, they showed a video of a girl. I don't know if it was in high school football or whatever, where she tackled the guy who was making a special teams return. He's running full steam, and she did knock him out. But you're not gonna put her in for that one play. You're not gonna put her in to run up against a 6'3" linebacker.
Yeah. It's a different story. Women are not stronger than men.
Story.
And we're built differently. I mean, with some exceptions. You got some Amazons out there, but I'm saying with some exceptions.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, then you play the game differently. It seems like you got a woman on the field.
It would play like they want NFL women to be head coaches. They want them to do.
I know they got referees, right?
As a referee, they got one as a referee, but that was in response to the Ray Rice thing. That wasn't about them.
To me, that's NFL is such a hypocritic organization because they already punish him, quote unquote. But then when the media got a hold of it, they lynched him.
Yeah.
He was already punished.
He was
investigated and everything.
Games.
Yeah.
And he had already admitted what he did. He said he hit her. Now, he may have not gone in graphic detail by what you saw in the video. And my understanding before that, she spat on him.
It's a lot of stuff. Like I'm sure they fought before, and she even said she was, guilty in some of the stuff.
Right. And she forgave him ultimately. They married.
Because she looking for the payday. I ain't gonna say I don't know her like that, but now I don't know. Like, it's interesting because she was expecting that payday, though. I'm sure by marrying him, she was expecting that money.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they'll get that anytime soon.
And why it only matters? Black women don't really. I mean, this is my thing. The white feminists, they like to use black women for their agenda. Black women, even young black females, are not even seen as human, really. Or like you look at a young black female, a 14-year-old black female, she's not seen as a woman. She's seen as a woman. Like you look at a 14-year-old or 15-year-old black boy, he's seen as a man by the media. They make our children to boogeymen and boogie women.
Well, they did that. You saw that with the Tamir Rice shooting.
Right. He was 12 years old.
They kept calling Tamir Rice a young man.
But he was 12.
He's a child.
Right.
He's a child. Right. You see that even how the police officer handled a few years back at that pool party.
Oh, yeah.
That policeman throw that little girl to the ground and put his knee in his back.
Right. She had a bikini on. Yeah.
Yeah. I may be able to get in trouble with this, but had I been there or anybody else, somebody should have took a brick and knocked him upside his fucking head. But
you see how the black boys responded initially? Then put a gun on him and started chasing them.
Yeah, they were some of the black boys were trying to stand up for her.
Mm-hmm.
But it goes back to what I said. People are scared. You saw that video go another year back when the cop came in the classroom and slammed that girl down.
Yeah, South Carolina.
And there was a black, I guess, a teacher who was standing right there, a male teacher, and he didn't say a word.
Mm-hmm. Just let the cop do what he did.
Yeah. Now,
there's some people saying, well, he dated a black woman or some stuff. I heard people say that stuff. Like, what they got to do with it? Thomas Jefferson had sex with black women too. Andrew Jackson did too. Nathan Bedford Forrest.
Bill Maher.
Right. Y'all have sex with black women. What they got to do with anything?
Bill Maher.
Especially Bill Maher. Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those, I guess, and Dr. Boyce Watkins has talked about him. He's one of those comedians those people where he's a white liberal and he feels entitled. He can talk to black people any kind of way.
He can screw all types of black people he want. He can screw them all types of ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really watch his show, to be quite honest. I've seen it years ago and I just felt, it just wasn't interesting to me because he's part of that whole neoliberal clique, about population. And he's talked about population control before. he said he's not opposed to killing some people. He said something like that once.
Well,
already.
the system does it anyway. Like when they push
well,
this.
yeah, and he's also this is another thing too. Most I find with the media today, it's not responsible like it, though it never has been responsible in all cases, but it's very opinionated, run, and there's certainly an agenda that they have in media, even in our black press. I was watching the Umar Johnson Roland Martin interview.
Was that an interview, or was it more like an ambush?
That was an ambush.
It was an interview,
right? And I'm not defending Umar because I don't know his detail as far as with the school, and I have questions about it, and I have no problem with people asking about the money. I think if you donated money to him, people have a right to ask questions about why it has taken so long and so forth. But they could have handled that whole situation much better by what I saw, and it was like I thought initially Roland was just interviewing Umar, and it ended up being 3-on-1. Well, really, 3-on-1. The only gentleman that had sense to talk and that was engaging in the conversation was the elder attorney.
Yeah, well, I respect. I don't think he really was like the other two, which were despicable people.
Yeah, they are despicable, and that's another thing. Roland was asking about Umar's credentials. What are their credentials?
Right.
What did they earn? What did they earn? Right. That's that goes back to what I'm saying. We're seeing people. When I talked about the TV shows that we have, we see people now get on television and make money that aren't talented. The Kardashians, they got on. They're known only because of the OJ case, and sex tape.
Right.
Okay, and they're fine. Well, at least two of them are. Okay. What? What? Yeah. What else do they offer? I'm not knocking their hustle. They made, I think, 1 year $150 million. I mean, somebody is interested in them. So if you want to make your money. But do we have to devote all of our attention to them?
I mean, things are so bad in people's lives right now. They need escapism more so than ever. I mean, superhero movies and reality TV shows and football.
Yeah. I mean, you need a way to escape the real world, and sometimes that's good, but sometimes reality will smack you back down.
Exactly.
As it always does. That's always good. Yeah. So, man, we're just talking with you, bro. I'm thinking about, I have nostalgia right now.
Yeah, but it's interesting. I just want to talk to you about a couple of things. I mean, we ain't gonna be able to get it around this time. There's so much time go by real fast. Try to respect your time, but the Usher situation is really interesting to me. What are your thoughts about that situation with him and the herpes? I mean, they're really trying to destroy this man's legacy or career.
I think he gave. I don't think he gave the woman herpes. I think he gave her Hershey's.
Well, she admitted the latest one admitted
she's lying. Listen. There's no way. Look, there's no way. Number one, you would have to prove in court he had sexual contact with these women. That's the first thing. The second thing is, can you prove he actually has herpes? Because if he doesn't have it, then that destroys the whole case. Because herpes is not curable.
But did they release his medical records when he settled that one settlement?
From my understanding, but he's saying he never had it. That was a babysitter, I believe, he had paid off. So I don't know if he was having an affair with her or what. But he said, I saw the Vibe article, he's never been diagnosed with it, and he's actually intending to sue. Now, here's the flip side of it. You're reacting at him for giving these women herpes, but Charlie Sheen was having sex with women while he had HIV.
Yeah.
And he didn't and they're saying he didn't disclose it. Where's Gloria Allred and Lisa Bloom?
That's a good point, man. Those great points you are making. And just because somebody settled out of court
that's
doesn't mean they
allegedly.
guilty.
I need to clarify. That's allegedly.
Right. But also as a lawyer, you know that just because you settle with somebody don't mean you did anything wrong.
Right. That's the same thing with Michael Jackson and Bill Cosby. They, Johnny Cochran was, he was a guy. He liked to, even though he was a criminal defense attorney, he had represented Todd Bridges around that time. And he represented so many other people. Most attorneys, I could tell you this, if we can settle cases, we do. Just because there's a lot of time in it. Sometimes clients don't have money, and if it's a good resolution for them, then we just go ahead and don't bother with it. And so I think Johnny told Michael, my understanding, look, the guy just wants some money. Michael just didn't want to be bothered with it, so he went ahead and made that settlement. And if you listen to the taped interview, they actually were listening to the daddy in that case. He was saying how he was going to get all of this money and how I'm going to use him up and so forth. And you just stop and think for a second. What parent, there's not enough money in the world. If you had molested my son, that could keep me from killing you.
Right.
I'm speaking hypothetically. I don't want anybody to think I'm endorsing violence. I gotta be careful.
Right. I hear you.
But that's just how you feel as a parent. If you did something like that, and that gentleman, he actually committed suicide after Michael died. He was a writer. He wanted to write screenplays. He actually wrote one for Mel Brooks' movie Robin Hood Men in Tights. He was a writer for that. His name was Evan Chandler. He was a dentist in Hollywood. Carrie Fisher wrote in her book, she talked about him, and she just said he was weird because she was a patient of his at one time. So he was surrounded by all of that and wanted to get in on that. And, it's a lot of, there's money to be made in those stuff, but I don't think he wrote another screenplay after that because Mel Brooks was pretty good up until after Spaceballs.
Yeah, I remember Man in Tights with Dave Chappelle. He wore some tights in that. He said he don't like wearing dresses, but he wore tights.
He did. He did wear tights, but Dave Chappelle was still unknown at that time.
I think he wore a dress in that too. I'm not mistaken. I gotta go back and look at it.
Yeah, he was.
A skirt or something, a man skirt or something. Yeah,
it was like. Was he wearing almost like I Dream of Jeannie stuff?
Okay, and so nobody ever brings that up. Nobody ever brings that stuff up, but it's interesting.
But I mean, they wanted him to actually put on a full-on dress in that Martin Lawrence movie, and he refused to do that.
I respect. But this is the thing. This is their fetish. They know what I'm saying. Well, Usher, people making fun of that girl, but people don't understand. People got all types of weird sexual fetishes and attractions. It's some folks that I'm attracted to. I said, what the hell wrong with me? I don't know why. There's some women I like. I said, damn. I was like, why do I like this woman right here? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it about? Right. It's not about being so-called pretty or cute. It's about magnetism. I had met people that had such strong animal magnetism about them. They had something about them. It was the it they had about them. It's not about how they look per se. It's about how they made you feel and their confidence. Like Henry Kissinger said. He said, power is an aphrodisiac. Yeah, some people are attracted to folks in certain ways. So I ain't going to make fun of nobody just because they look a certain way that's not traditional to what we consider beauty or handsome or whatever.
Well, let me be clear. I wasn't, because I'm a big dude myself. I'm not thin or anything like that. So let me be clear. I wasn't trying to, because people say I was trying to fat shame her or whatever. I'm reacting because I think she's lying.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah,
she's lying. And it was ridiculous. Even if you looked at Lisa Bloom, it looked like she didn't even believe what this woman was saying because it's frivolous. It's just frivolous. There's no way to prove.
It's he said, she said
stuff. If you weren't infected with the disease, what are you doing a teleconference in front of all of these press reporters if you're saying you came back negative and you had sex with Usher? I mean, how do you prove that?
That's true.
It's just frivolous. Why I don't believe it. Same thing with the Bill Cosby situation. You know, the woman admitted on the witness stand and in her deposition in no uncertain terms that she went back to Bill Cosby's house even after this alleged assault took place.
Mm-hmm.
She admitted that she gave him Valentine's Day gifts. She admitted that she went back to get concert tickets to her for her parents. Does that sound like that's business related? Because she said all of the calls. She said, well, 75 of those calls, all of them were just about business, even though they were late at night. Come on, man.
I mean, you raise some valid, I think, points that people need to ask themselves. That's why it's so important to have discussions and platforms where we can discuss these type of things and get people to think about things, not to control people thinking, but to get them to think and come to their own conclusions. So I think it's very important.
Right. If we could, if we wanted to talk about the OJ thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I don't been on for an hour, but go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
That's okay. Yeah, you had told me, and I think we were talking about his parole hearing.
All right.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you and the audience a question. Have you ever seen a parole hearing televised on national TV?
No.
This Charles Manson, I think, had a parole hearing, and his was not even televised. If I'm correct.
Okay.
So, yeah. So what they're doing is they're keeping the OJ Simpson name alive throughout the country because with black people, we're often looked at when they attack one of us. That's used to reflect on all of us as an entire nation, as an entire group. You know, with the OJ case, they changed domestic violence laws throughout the country. Congress approved about $2 billion to many of these domestic violence groups here in the United States. And don't get me wrong, I think domestic violence is terrible. But and yeah, if you want to ask me, do I think OJ hit his wife a couple of times and beat her? Okay, yeah, I think, and I also think she was fighting him too. Not saying that's an excuse, but if you talk about murder, you also got to look at the people she was surrounded by. This woman was, from the information that I've read, and you can read books by Dr. Henry Johnson. He's actually, as a friend of OJ Simpson, he had been investigating the case with his brother, Thomas Johnson. He wrote a book called Double Cross for Blood. And, you know, Ron and Goldman, you know, several associates of his, Michael Nigg and Brett Cantor, were murdered. Nicole Brown Simpson, you know, you remember that thing with Faye Resnick? It was known that they would socialize and do drugs. You know, not to mention also when they go back and look at the trial, the airline pilot who saw OJ and actually OJ signed his pilot's log, he noticed no cuts and bruises on his body. He testified to this at the trial. All of this came out. So we're saying that a 47-year-old man at that time killed two athletically fit people, one of whom was by accident. He was stabbed several times, and he managed not to get any blood on his skin, no cuts and bruises. The cut that he had on his finger was verified by the Chicago police when he broke a piece of glass after he found out his ex-wife was murdered. But we ignore that. They ignore that, and that's why you got to be careful. Like brother Tariq Nasheed was saying, the OJ Did It industry is a multi-million-dollar industry. I saw his interview the interview you did with him when he had a speaking engagement for Hidden Colors 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what he's saying is exactly correct. Not to mention also there are phone records that have not been shown to the public that, from my understanding, show Nicole Brown Simpson was alive after 11 o'clock.
Yeah, because she spoke with her mom. Yeah, OJ tried to get those phone records released. He has not been successful in trying to get that released.
Because they know what the truth is.
Yeah, a lot of people on the ground know what the truth is, but the thing about it, who controls the narrative? Even like Nicole Brown Simpson's sister boyfriend, who was a mafia hitman in witness protection, said the police, their only suspect was OJ. They all was trying to go after OJ, the only person they was looking at.
Right.
And you could tell that was an organized crime hit because the way they were killed. And then you got somebody on death row in Florida named Glenn Rogers, I believe. He said he did it, a serial killer.
Yeah. Well, Thomas Johnson and his brother, Dr. Henry Johnson, they have said that it was Glenn Rogers, allegedly, along with another gentleman.
He knew Faye Resnick and Nicole Brown, so he hanged around them too.
He was dating, according to what their research was saying, Mr. Johnson's, he said that Nicole had actually dated Glenn Rogers, and they actually have, he documents it in his book, not Double Cross of Blood. There was another book you can read, Pursuit of Exhibit 35, which deals with the phone records and how the district attorney's office removed these exhibits and that particular exhibit from the court records after the trial had concluded. The jury never saw the phone records. They agreed to stipulate what's called a stipulated agreement, and that timeline was a stipulated timeline as to when the murder happened. So they never saw that. The public has never saw that. But Nicole Brown Simpson's mother, and it's in the coroner's affidavit, she told Thomas Lane, the detective, that they spoke at around 2300 hours military time, which is 11 o'clock p.m. If that's the case, OJ was already getting in his limousine, getting ready to fly out to Chicago. And that's another thing. He was able to do all of this in less than... he was able to kill two athletically fit people and catch an airplane, red-eye.
And you forgot to mention he had bad knees. People think about that Hearst commercial where he's running through the airport. Go, Juice, go. He's the only black person in the airport running through there. But he has bad knees. He can't really walk that well. So you say he did all this.
That in the parole hearing, too.
Yeah.
He was struggling to walk.
Yeah, he got no knees. I mean, from just playing the football, wear and tear.
Right. And another thing, too, with the gloves not fitting. Those athletes, how tall is OJ Simpson?
He's about 6'1", 6 feet, something like that.
He's a little bit over 6 feet. So let's say for the sake of argument, 6'2".
Right.
Those athletes are gonna wear double X or triple X.
Okay, OJ got big hands. Yeah.
Hands and shoes. The shoes probably are size 13. The Bruno Magli shoes were much smaller than OJ's actual feet. If you looked at the shoe print, the shoe fit right in the tile. Well, Thomas Lane testified the tile measured about 11 and a half. So if OJ wears a size 13, how could a size 12 fit in an 11 and a half tile?
You're right. There you go.
But nobody answers that question. But yeah, it's all by design. It's to keep the narrative on OJ. It's to keep the myth of the black. It's the Othellian storyline because they like to play that a black man jealous of a white woman. That started with this guy. His name is Dominic Griffin. You heard of him? Yeah.
Okay, Dominic. Go ahead.
Dominic Griffin. Dominic Griffin was one of those true crimes reporters and all.
Oh, that's not Dominic Dunn, right? It's Griffin.
I'm sorry, I said Griffin.
I heard. Yeah, Dunn. Yeah, he passed now, right? He's dead or deceased.
He's dead, right? But he was the one. He's the one that really helped push that narrative. Him, Jeffrey Tobin.
Oh yeah,
Geraldo Rivera.
Such a hack.
Yeah, Geraldo Rivera, who his career was shot when he did that Al Capone.
Yeah, but he was dating Nicole's sister though.
Who was dating Nicole?
Geraldo. About the end of the trial, he ended up dating her.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I believe that was involved, if I'm not mistaken. I remember looking at the OJ trial on E! Entertainment. OJ made so many people careers in networks. He made E! Court TV. He made so many people careers. And everybody's allowed to make money but OJ, which is it's crazy.
I'm going to tell you something else, too. You know who else has written? All of the attorneys, basically, maybe with the exception of F. Lee Bailey,
and Christopher Darden.
No, Darden got a book deal.
Really? Oh, my God.
You know who never wrote a book?
Who never? Ito?
never wrote a book on it, which I found interesting.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know why. You would think, it would have made, because he was very famous, he would have made millions of dollars, I'm sure. He was offered and he turned it down. That was, I don't know why. It might be, I certainly it can't be money. I can't say he doesn't need the money. If you got offered $5 million, even if I made a six-figure salary, you ain't gonna turn down free money like that.
I guess so. I mean, it's a fascinating case because you got the millennials coming of age now. Now they updating the OJ narrative because even 20-something years ago they didn't have enough sense because the LAPD was incompetent in how they collected the evidence and how they just focused on OJ. And you got folks on the ground. Some detectives were involved in the Rampart scandal where they were sending folks to jail on trumped up charges and false evidence.
All right.
So that if you don't understand the context of that time, that's why it's so important that people like you and me and other folks start talking about this and putting that stuff out there because the information is out there for people to get.
Right. And another book you should read, I want to point this out. There's a white man. He's a true crimes author. His name is Stephen Singular.
Okay.
I don't know if you've heard of him.
No.
But I have his book. I'll share it with you. But the book is called Legacy. I'm reading it right here, the title of it. I'm going to make sure I get it right. But it's called Legacy of Deception. And it's called, it is basically is a history, an investigation of Mark Furman and racism in the LAPD. So he wrote this book back in the 90s. And I think he updated it, but it's available online or Amazon. But he pointed out how basically the LAPD, their history of racism that they had, Mark Furman, who was the witness, the star witness for the prosecution, if you remember.
Very flawed star witness.
Very flawed. He found the blood, the glove and so forth. Well, the glove was planted, and he was the one that planted it, and he had heard, Mr. Singular heard, while this all was going on from a reliable source in the LAPD, whatever you hear about the blood evidence that comes on the media, do not trust it. And according to Singular, he was the one that told Carl Douglas and Johnny Cochran about the EDTA that was in the blood. You see, EDTA is an artificial compound that is used if you ever go to a doctor to get your blood drawn. They put it in a purple tube. Well, that's to preserve, that chemical is to preserve the blood from clotting. So my mother, who's a medical technician, she works for the Veterans Affairs Hospital for over 20 years. She knew immediately when all of this was going on. I shouldn't even mention her because she said, don't mention me when I'm talking about this stuff. But
okay.
It's okay. I'm going to mention it. But what's she going to do?
I heard you. Go ahead. I was listening.
Yeah, but she told me that she knew immediately. She said, they planted that. Because she knew, she's been in a lab and she knew how that stuff worked. And then on top of the bloody socks, which they talk about, Barry Scheck was talking about it as well with Charlie Rose and the other attorney, I think Peter Soundfield. He was one of the other members of the Dream Team. They knew from that Furman and Van Anna had planted the socks with the blood in it because the way that the blood was in the socks was symmetrical, meaning it was poured through from one side to the other. If someone's foot is in a sock, it's not going to be the same side. The blood is not going to be the same side as it is on another side. It's just like with blood splatter. It should look different if it hits an object like a foot, a bone.
Right.
Liquid takes shape of, even though blood is, plasma, it takes the shape of the object. So they poured that blood through his sock because OJ had given, if you remember, blood to the police that day he was, not the day he was arrested, but when he went in for questioning. So, yeah, they need to, if you read those books, your listeners can read it, you'll get the true story from all of this because people need to realize what's going on. redefining laws as a result of the OJ case. They're trying to brainwash the new kids who don't know any better about it. And it's all a part of it. By the way, F. Lee Bailey was on how he became a big attorney. I was listening to Judge Joe Brown when he was talking about how he represented the Russian spy.
Right.
I also read he was the lawyer for Sam Shepard, Dr.
Right.
Sam
Right.
Shepard,
Mm-hmm.
with the fugitives.
Right. He got him off.
Right. Well, originally he was convicted, but then the Supreme Court struck down his conviction because of the publicity.
Mm-hmm.
Because due to the publicity of the trial, due to the publicity of the trial, it prevented him from having, a fair trial.
Mm-hmm.
Because the media, and you even saw it with OJ, and you see it with Bill Cosby. You saw it even with Michael. If you read
Jackson.
if you read the book by Aphrodite Jones, called The Michael Jackson Conspiracy, she was trying to do a positive Michael Jackson book, and no book publisher wanted to do that, and everything in the media was negative.
That's how they make their money. I mean, that's why reality TV shows are so popular. People love car wrecks.
Right. And Tom Mesereau, who was Michael's attorney, he had talked with Barry Gordy, and Barry Gordy told him, he said, that you got Michael off, you just cost the national media about $4 billion.
Yeah.
See, they knew what was going on.
Fake news. I mean, it's fake news.
Yeah.
It's fake news.
Judge Joe don't like him. Don't like Michael.
Oh, yeah, everybody got their opinions and reasons for, But my thing is, if they charge you something you didn't do, even though you might have a questionable character or whatever, or even sexuality or sexual preference, if they charge you something you didn't do, they're railroading you, then nobody deserves to go to jail for something they didn't do.
No.
Nobody deserves to go to jail. Yeah.
And I think in that case, they just couldn't prove their case, and the boy, he had a lot of holes in his story.
Mm-hmm.
Mesereau was a great attorney. He was able to cross-examine him. He brought on character witnesses. He brought on witnesses that contradicted the boy's case. He had celebrities testify where his family was trying to extort them.
Yeah, I mean, you're a target when you're a celebrity, like Usher. You're a target when you are a celebrity.
Right. Chris Tucker testified for Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Leno, a couple other people.
Yeah, but then go ahead. I'm sorry.
And believe it or not, Geraldo Rivera, he was kissing Michael's ass all the time.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that. I remember him standing for Michael that last trial, and also I remember when Jermaine Jackson was on Larry King. Larry King stood for Michael too. I believe he testified on behalf of Michael. And Jermaine said, my brother got a 5,000 square foot master bedroom. And then Larry King said, repeat that, Jermaine. Repeat that once more. My brother has a 5,000 square foot master bedroom. That's the size of a mansion for some people. And that's his bedroom. So you can't look at the bed as being a Motel 6 size bed. I'm not justifying grown man sleeping with little kids, but I'm saying, how big was that damn bed he was sharing if his master bedroom is 5,000 square feet?
And he was saying he said he would give it up, the room, just like a guest. If you came to my house, back in the day, if you were spending the night by somebody's house and you were a guest,
give up their bed.
They would give up their bed for you while they would go sleep in the floor or go sleep in the other kid's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
That was just like we did that when my aunt and uncle would come. They would have the master bedroom. That was natural. Now I certainly don't condone his changing his appearance, because he really no gay stuff here, but he was a good looking kid.
But had he stayed the regular looking black man, he would be in jail right now. I believe that if he had stayed his regular appearance. Not saying that, something about people with black folks, you know what I'm saying? Like he looked like some type of weird, eccentric type of person, right? But had he stayed looking like a regular black man, we think he would have got off.
Well, I think we would look at him. I think they still would have killed him since he had that catalog.
Yeah, but when he escaped the charges, he was not with child molestation, though. Would he this guy looks guilty? You know how, like that Willie Horton thing, like they need a black boogeyman. You know how this white supremacist society works. Like you're a black man, you're a monster, a potential monster. Well, OJ really did transcend race. That's why white folks were so upset because they didn't know how to deal with OJ.
Right.
Even the LAPD didn't know how to deal with OJ. Like when they called for the domestic violence thing, suppose that it's OJ Simpson. He's not a regular black. He's OJ, and he was treated like that for a long, long time.
Yeah, until now.
Yeah, but now he embodies the racial polarization of America against his own wishes, which is ironic. He tried to avoid it all his life. But now he's the epitome of what's going on with racial divisiveness in this country.
He is. He's being used that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as Michael, I think Mike would have still been out. I don't think he would have gone to jail because he had a stronger fan base than even Bill Cosby.
Yeah, people on TV knew who Michael Jackson was. It was like a Jesus thing. They go to different countries, they knew who Michael Jackson.
What Bill Cosby did wrong, he started, and we talked about this before, was when he started criticizing the hip hop generation, and he wasn't very embracing of them. And even going back to when he was doing, remember Eddie Murphy's movie Raw?
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
Right. And how Cosby just told, I'd like to talk to you about things you see in your show. It was like he never knew Bill Cosby. He knew Bill Cosby, but this was the first time he ever talked to him, and he's criticizing him. It's like, yeah, you could have handled it a little bit differently. So the fact that's coming out that he had affairs with all these women is almost looking like he's a hypocrite. But do I think he was raping them? No. There's no I don't have any evidence to prove that. And so we're not so quick to defend him or come to his aid because of that. But we got to realize that they're not doing it on top of the fact that other whites who have been accused of worse, like Woody Allen and Steve Collins from Seventh Heaven.
And Roman Polanski,
Charlie Sheen.
Yep.
I mean, Charlie Sheen had issues with domestic violence and possibly giving women and having sex with them HIV, which is actually worse than, even with UsHER, it technically is worse than that because HIV is, I'm not saying there's no level of STD that's better than one. It's still bad, but, HIV changes the game, man. That you can actually be, if he knew about it, he could actually be prosecuted for attempted murder.
But some weird way, Charlie Sheen is protected. You don't really.
Right, but yeah, we got to stay on code with it because, they're changing the rape laws too in this country.
There's a lot of things to change about. There's so much we could talk about, but I guess we got to say this for another time. Brother Gavin, Richard, what's the best way for the people to reach you, man? Because people are really going to enjoy this interview. I already know.
Yes, brother. Well, you can reach me. You can follow me on Instagram at grich2786. You can also reach me on my Twitter account at gavmrich2786. I know they're two different names. I practice law here on the side. Law Office of Gavin Richard. My website is gmrichardlawoffice.com. But you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, gboot2786. I'm sorry, is it gboot? Yeah. Man, I forget sometimes.
We'll make sure we put all the contact we can on this show.
gboot2786. Yeah, I really appreciate always talking to you, brother. I saw you in Los Angeles a couple of months back for your birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, how was it?
It was great. I went back recently. I spent almost all of July in Los Angeles, Las Vegas, and Oregon this past month. So I went back there for a second time. I love LA. I love the West Coast. It's interesting. It's different. There's a lot of opportunity out there. And I look forward to going back there again. So I've been there 2 times in less than 2 months.
I've thought about eventually practicing law out there once.
Oh, you have fun out there, man. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yeah. It's expensive to live, though, I know.
Oh, well, anything, you got to pay the cost to be the boss, like James Brown said, so many years ago. I just think sometimes we limit ourselves based on this thing called money, and money is a tool. It's not the end game to me. It's just a means to get to your end. You know, it's a resource to be utilized. And if you want to make something happen, you do what it takes to make it happen. Like Malcolm said, by any means necessary.
Yeah, most definitely. That's true. I mean, you got to take a risk.
Yeah,
Life is about, if you ever want to fly, you got to jump.
basically. That's how it works, man. But Brother Gavin, I love to talk to you always, man. You're a great man. I look forward to hearing more great things from you and doing more shows with you. In the words of the great Duke Ellington, we love you madly. Keep on producing and pushing, and have a great weekend.
All right, thank you, brother. And look, what we'll do, if you ever come to New Orleans or Louisiana, you let me know. I'm going to take you to a real burger place and some seafood. So.
Yeah, I'll be coming there soon then, man. Either Baton Rouge or New Orleans. Thank you so much, man.
All right.
All right, peace.
Peace.